All right, hi everybody, this is Dr. Manning, and welcome back to Diane's Dance Studio. This is part 2 of the Diane's Dance Studio worksheet video. So when we left off in part 1, we had just recorded adjustments for this worksheet. We are now going to continue to the right of the worksheet, and we're going to work with the income statement and the balance sheet. All right, so first of all, let's talk about the income statement because it is the next one to the right. The income statement is where all of your revenue and expense accounts go. In fact, there is an account right here called Income Summary that we're going to discuss in a lot more detail when we get to step 5 of the accounting cycle. But right now, it kind of acts like a placeholder. In fact, if I highlight it real quick, you can see that anything beneath Income Summary is our revenue and our expense accounts. Here's the sales account, that's revenue. And then of course, all of these accounts that end with the word expense, they are expense accounts. So if it helps you, you can use income summary as kind of a divider line, and anything that's beneath it goes to the income statement. All right, so how do we do this? It's mostly just simply taking a number and moving it to the right. It's usually that easy. So let's start with the sales account. In the trial balance, our sales account was $5,556 credit. There was no adjustment for sales. Both of these are blank. Therefore, we are going to just simply take this number and move it over here. Be careful. Don't accidentally flip it from credit to debit. That is a common mistake, and if you do that, of course, your numbers won't add up correctly. So I'm going to move 5,556 over here to the credit. I'm going to keep going down. I'm going to go to rent expense next. It's $850 debit. There is no adjustment. So on the debit side of income statement, I'm just going to put $850. And I'm going to keep moving down the list here. So advertising expense is $675. Utilities expense is $400. Now we're on supplies expense. So supplies expense didn't have anything in the trial balance. But we adjusted it, right? When we had to adjust our supplies account, we also had to give supplies expense an equal debit. Because this 353 is in the adjustments, this is the number that we're going to move over to the income statement. So we're going to put 353 as a debit. And then same thing with insurance expense, 275 as an adjustment. There's nothing in the trial balance, so 275 as a debit here as well. And you can see that my subtotals have been updating this whole time. That's because we put that equation in back in part 1 of this. Okay, that's everything for the income statement. Now we're going to go to the balance sheet. We'll just keep moving to the right. The balance sheet is all the other accounts that we haven't done anything with. And once again, if you think of the income summary as being the divider line, everything above it is going to go to the balance sheet. This is all of our asset accounts, our liabilities, and our owner's equity accounts, or the ALLO accounts. So assets, liabilities, owner's equity. So this whole group of accounts, all of these balances are going to be moved over to the balance sheet. We're going to do it the exact same way we did before. Cash has a $3,548 debit balance. I'm going to move that over here to the balance sheet in the debit column. Now supplies is slightly different because supplies has a trial balance and then it also has an adjustment. The balance in the trial balance is a debit and the adjustment was a credit. Because these are opposites, debits and credits, we have to subtract these two numbers. So 1,703 minus 353 should equal 1,350. That is also the same number that we had down here for our adjustments, which said that our value of supplies was 1,350. This is a good thing. We want to show that our value of supplies is what we estimated it at the end of the month. All right, so I'm going to take 1,703 minus 353, which is 1,350, and that's going to go into the balance sheet section. All right, accounts receivable Bobby Brown gets moved over, 425. Accounts receivable Janet Jackson gets moved over, 1,000. Prepaid insurance, we're going to have to do this exactly like we did supplies. $550 debit, $275 credit. We subtract these two. Should be $275 as a debit because the debit is the higher of the two. Accounts payable leg warmers world over on the credit side now, $495. Accounts payable the ballet slipper, $225. Diane Douglas Capital, $3,500. And then finally, Diane Douglas Drawing, $625 as a debit. Okay. Just like before, my values have been updating as I put these accounts in here. It's just adding them down here at the bottom. All right, we are very close to being done. As you guys know, debits and credits always have to equal. And if I start looking in my different sections of this document, I can check to see if debits and credits currently equal. So how about in the trial balance section? We looked at this earlier. Debits and credits equal, $9,776. In the adjustments section, debits and credits equal, $628, $628. In the income statement section, they don't equal. We're currently off a little bit. Credits are slightly higher. In the balance sheet section, they also don't equal. This time the debits are slightly higher. So the difference between these two numbers and these two numbers should be the same. And if they are the same, that's going to represent our business's net profit or loss. So right here below subtotals, I'm going to put net profit / loss because we might have had a loss. And I am going to find the difference between these two numbers. I am going to put that difference underneath the smaller of the two numbers. So for the income statement section, the debit is smaller than the credit. So I'm going to put the difference between the two underneath in the debit column. I could use a calculator. That'd be totally fine. Or I can use Google Sheets, which is like a big calculator. So I'm going to type equals. You always type equals when you want to do some math. And this time I'm going to click on the number that I want to subtract. So 5,556. And I'm going to hit minus. And I'm going to click on the debit value, 3,003. When I hit enter, it tells me that I have a difference of $3,003. All right, now I'm going to do the exact same thing over here in the balance sheet, except this time I'm going to put the number on the credit side because it is the smaller of the two numbers. So I'm going to use Google Sheets one more time. I'm going to type equals because I want to do some math. I'm going to click on the debit balance, hit minus, and I'm going to click on the credit balance and hit enter. And I got 3,003 again. That is a good thing. We want these two numbers to equal. This is kind of like checkpoint number 2 in your document. If these two numbers equal, most likely you're doing things correctly. All right, now I mentioned that this number represents the net profit or the loss for the business. It can be a little challenging to determine if it is a profit or a loss. So to do that, I want to focus in on this income statement section right here, because the income statement section represents our revenue and our expenses. Revenue is our sales. It's the money that's coming into the business when we sell something. And expenses are the things that we have to pay for to operate the business. So we are going to show, by subtracting these two numbers, we're going to show the difference between the money that we earned through sales and the money that we spent through expenses. The difference was $3,003, and our revenue is higher than our expenses. Because of that, we can show that this business has a net gain or a net profit. Okay, final thing is to prove that debits and credits now equal in the income statement and in the balance sheet. So I'm going to finally put totals right here. A lot of accountants like to put another border right here. I kind of do too. I just think it looks nice. So I'm going to put a bottom border. And because I changed the thickness earlier, it automatically does that for me. All right, I'm going to add these two numbers together. So Going to add them by using Google Sheets. You easily could use a calculator. This one has nothing to add, so I'm just going to simply retype this number, 5,556. This one has nothing to add to it, so 7,223. And then finally, I'm going to add these two numbers using Google Sheets or a calculator. Now, when I look at my final balances, my debits and my credits are equal in the income statement, and my debits and credits are equal in the balance sheet. And that is basically the final step, because now that I am equal all the way across in all 4 sections, I can feel pretty confident that I have done the entire worksheet correctly. Okay, guys, I hope this video was helpful. Good luck.